Yeah. They're corporate.
They're a little.
They're
sterile.
very corporate.
Yeah.
They're very sterile. They're very cookie cutter. They're just that. You know, I just don't find that they have a lot of warmth or character to them. You know, kind of a thing. But I don't know. You know how many of that kind of clubs you have anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
That's one of the things I like when I go to a new club. Is walking in and just seeing like, well, what's going to be set up like? You know,
right.
You know, what's the history I can feel here? What's what's soaked in to the carpet and the wood?
Right,
Who was here previously, or even Thursday night, I stuck my head into the open mic and just listened for a little bit. And I always want to hear what are people talking about in this part of the country.
Yeah. As far as that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. What curious then when you came in for the first time, did the first show here, what was the feel you got in there?
Oh, well, I like coming in for the Thursday night show because there's not a lot of pressure and you can really get a sense for I mean, I always laugh at the people, the MCs go up and they do local references and I'm like, oh, I don't know what that business is, but they mention some restaurant, everybody laughed and I think, okay, well, I guess that means something to them. Yeah, I mean, I could tell that the people who watch me on Gutfeld were going to come out, but I expected that, because I've been checking in with you,
Oh, sure.
just to make sure, and it was great because it was a taste of what the weekend was going to be like, and the weekend has amped that up every show so far.
Okay, cool. I was kind of like, because you mentioned it, just the. Is it comparatively? Is it a comfortable room? Is it a?
Oh yeah. And it's a surprisingly big stage too. That it's one of the things, like when you do stand up in New York, you're used to being on like a pallet,
right?
And then that was the first time I worked a big room was the Borgata in Atlantic City, and the guy used to book it then. Ray Garvey passed away. He shook his head and he goes, "You New York City comics." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Move around. You've got space." He says, "You guys act like you're in an elevator." So what I would do on that stage is I remember watching an interview with Chris Rock, and he said how you have to be visually interesting too.
Right.
So one of the things I would do is as I walked the stage, I would kick my leg out maybe like 20% more than a normal step, and it would the steps would kind of pull me across the stage. So it made it, just watching me pace was more interesting because I'm pretty much like a word guy. So,
Sure. Yeah. Well, that was when I teach comedy to these people. I usually tell beginners, I go, in my opinion, I would leave the mic in the mic stand and I would stand and deliver, because there's no reason to add more for you to think about. And I tell them, I go, because when you're new at this and you take the mic out and you start moving around, it's nervous energy and you're just kind of wandering with no purpose. And I go, watch Chris Rock. I go, Chris Rock paces. He prowls. Exactly right. He looks like a caged animal. And I said, watch how he's pacing, but as soon as he delivers a punch, he'll stop and plant and go right at you. I said, Richard Lewis used to do the same thing, but with his neurotic shit. But when he was ready to deliver, he'd stop. And I go, but you guys will just wander the fuck around.
You know what you're doing. You know what? I would stop in. My friend teaches one of the classes on Long Island, and I would watch and I would say to them, the only thing you cannot do while I'm here is you cannot flip the mic cord with your hand. It drives me nuts. And there would be people who would, because they don't know what to do, and I would tell them, if you don't know what to do with your hands, take your hand and plant it on your hip.
Right.
And I would tell them, it feels a little weird, but it doesn't look that bad.
Right.
Like if you're watching, it doesn't, and then as you get more comfortable, the hand can come up. It can be involved. But yeah, you start to do weird things with the cord, and you're right. Just what are you doing? You're doing 5 minutes, so just stand there and talk. You don't need to be wandering around.
Right. And I go, the mic stand will move. Well, it was when I have a BFA degree in acting, and so I remember in first acting class, the hands was something they brought up. and I remember our professor was like, guys, in normal life, if we're standing here talking, you never think about where your hands are. Yeah. It never even goes into your brain, where are my hands? But as soon as you get in front of an audience like that, all of a sudden they become these big Mickey Mouse, things, appendages, and she was. I remember her saying, a big part of your first step of being natural on stage is letting your hands be natural. If you can let your hands be natural, it kind of relaxes everything a little bit. It's interesting.
True. It's so strange that, what was it? Stanislavski said, "Self-consciousness is the enemy of art."
Yes,
and it's true. But I've known, like, the first time when I started to do panel shows, and when I started doing them on Fox, they had us in the basement, so they would go to us as if we were remote.
Right.
So it just was framed tight, so I could have my notes in my lap and all that. But when they first moved us to the table with everybody, I remember thinking, what does a human do with his hands? Because I didn't like when I sit on my hand. Like, I don't know, because you're afraid like one hand is going to start flipping around, and because you see, like, that's what's so brutal when you first start. You look at a video and you're like, what is this tick that when I'm like clawing at my face, or rubbing my ass with my? It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't know how you are with looking at yourself, but that's always been I think something that there's a detriment to me as a performer, and as an athlete and everything.
Yeah.
I hate looking at myself, but when I'm forced to, it's always a magnificent learning experience, because it's so crazy, isn't it, how your mind will conceptualize what you look like, and you'll buy totally into it, and it's totally not what you look like.
Yeah, because you don't. It's the most natural thing. Because when you start, man, I've gotten lazy with recording myself, but I used to do it all the time when I first started, and it was one of my first sets where, when you start, you're like remembering, you're struggling, like, what's the next one? And I was up there and I felt, I don't know what I'm supposed to say next. I'm blanking. And I paused, and then it came to me, and I remember saying to the audience, "Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say." And when I listened to the recording, there was no noticeable gap. They were like, what is he saying sorry for? Right. But when you're up there, your sense of time is so distorted.
Yes.
Especially when you start. It's so weird that you think you know how you're moving through the world, but when you get up on stage, you just don't know. And that's why I can't forgive experienced comics who run way over their time, because it's like you don't know what 8 minutes feels like, and you just did 22, like you really couldn't tell.
Right.
But because that's the thing, like when you're killing, an hour goes by like nothing, and when you're eating it, 5 minutes is it's eternity in hell.
It's completely relative.
Yeah.
And exactly right. You can so trick yourself. Yeah. I think it's a great lesson. It's like you almost want to tell people, you go, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do for a living or whatever. But I go, if you will take an acting class, if you will do something that gets you, something that you have to understand how you walk, how you talk, how you move, because it'll change you for the better. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm golf. I love to play golf. And do you play the sport? No. Okay. So recently, I got back into lessons, and so on my swing, I was the coach, the swing coach goes, okay, turn all the way back with your club, and I want you, and then when you're turned all the way, I want you to stop, and I want you to tell me, where do you think the end of your club is? Mm-hmm. Okay. I would have, in my mind, it was over here. It was here. It was here. That's where I thought it was, because that's where it's supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was turned all the way. He videoed me. It was here. It I had not even gotten it past my right ear.
Yeah.
And I thought it was over here. And he did 2 or 3 things with me like that. When I was turned, he goes, "Is that as far as you can turn?" I go, "Yeah, as far as I can turn." And he's 6'2" and weighs about 200 pounds. You know, me and you are about the same size. He walks over and just puts his hands on my chest and back, and he just does that.
Yeah.
And I turned another 3 inches, and he goes, "See, there was no effort in me doing that."
Yeah.
He said, "Your brain has told you, your mind has told you can't turn any further than that, but you could." But something in your crazy ass brain said, "No, I can't do that. I can't go that far." When he did that, I thought, how many times do we do that in all kinds of stuff?
Yeah.
Where we mentally have somehow hardwired ourselves to go, "I can't do that. This is as far as I can go. This is as much as I can do." And because we're not having an outside professional look at us and help us and give us that thing, you know, we just that you don't maximize your potential.
Yeah. You know, hearing you say that, it reminds me of, did you ever read the John Sarno back pain book?
No.
It was recommended to me by all these different people, and the premise is that a lot of the back pain you're feeling, I'm going to paraphrase it here, but it's because of traumas you've had, psychological fears that are making you clamp down, and that if you can teach yourself to say, "This is just a feeling I'm experiencing, it's not an actual," and then the pain starts to go away. And I know there's some truth to it, because I think of, you know, all the injuries I've had, where a lot of times what you're feeling is the muscles tensing up around the injury. It's the reaction to it. And then once those muscles loosen up, suddenly the injury goes away, because you're not in spasm all the time.
Exactly.
And your body is a manifestation of what's on your mind. So if you've got, your body will affect your mind will affect your body. If you have a certain view of the world, you will walk around in a defensive posture.
Yes.
Which you may be completely entitled to, given your experiences.
Yes, absolutely.
But it doesn't mean people are trying to hit you, I guess my point.
Well, exactly right. It's like going into fight or flight when there's no reason to go into fight or flight. Yeah. But you've conditioned yourself.
Yeah.
I recently had a friend of mine. We both had the same neck pain, and he was explaining his, and I go, "Well," and I call it, from a Southern thing, getting a crick in your neck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I got a little crick in my neck. But I just slept on it wrong. I knew I slept on it wrong, and it's tight. Well, the difference with me is I know that. And then I go, okay, you do your normal things, loosen up, you stretch, and then I went out, I worked out, I played golf the next day, and it took about 2 days, and it was gone. But it was because I got active. I didn't go, "Oh, my neck." And I think he more went, "My neck's hurt, I'm not going to do anything with it," and ended up going to the doctor, and it lasted for him
he's probably
a week.
sitting around thinking about his neck.
Exactly. You know, and but I think that in learning the fact that I was going to say this. You mentioned you're 55?
56.
You're 56. Yeah. Okay, so you're just getting started on this aging shit.
Yeah.
I'm 70. I'm getting ready to turn 70, which is, you know, in one part you go, "Man, I can't believe I got here." You know, and part of it is like, "Wow, that moved along pretty quick." But I feel good. You know, I go, "I feel great." You know, I mean, Dick Smothers, who's a great friend of mine, is just turning 87, and he just and he's in great shape. You know, he's like and he goes, he goes, I get up, I feel good. You know, I said, "Motherfucker, he can dance. He just got into golf 10 years ago. He's very nimble." And he goes, "But when you're 87, you just know there's a shoe going to drop somewhere here in the neck." You know,
the margin for error.
It's just going to happen, you know. But, you know, when you talk about that defensive thing, part of it, too, is that, and I can use it as golf, but I can go into it with comedy or anything else, is that as you're aging, your body naturally starts to protect itself.
Yeah.
But which is not a bad thing, but it can be, because you'll start limiting yourself in ways that you really don't have that limitation.
Yeah.
But you start doing it out of fear of injury or failure or whatever, instead of and I just think it's so important to have those outside professionals, no matter what you're doing, that you get and go, I want you to watch me and give me some feedback on where you think I can go further. Like I feel like I'm limiting myself, and see if you see that, And most pros can spot shit like that.
Oh, that's why
quickly
coaches will go to get coached.
Right.
It's just a strange thing about being a human, is that you're the pilot and you're the machine. So I find, well, one of the things I'm working on now is I've got some career stuff that I'm trying to figure out, and I decided I'm going to have a board of directors. Not in a legal sense, but I reached out to 4 friends of mine who were successful in other disciplines, who've known me for years, and I said, we're going to have a board meeting where I'm going to, in a very dispassionate way, talk to you about these things. And we're going to figure out we're going to have a vote, and we're going to discuss it. Instead of me just sitting around ruminating and wondering if maybe my ego is in the way, or am I not seeing things, or self-conscious, like all these other things. Turn it over to the pros.
I love that.
And let them figure it out, because
everybody should have a personal board of directors. That's awesome.
Because I read about something like it in the Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And he talked about having a mastermind, which is where you would get people from different disciplines to, you get this synergy, all these things that, you'd see it in Think and Grow Rich, you'd see it in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Like there's commonalities that lead to just being better at whatever it is you're trying to do.
Well, I was years ago, I'm just not an organization joiner.
Yeah.
It's not me. But my wife is.
Yeah.
And so when we were first getting started in business, as a part of business, she would join all these organizations, you know. And I'd go and speak to them, but I don't want to be in it, right? Yeah. So this organization popped up, and there was about 20 people in it. They were all, pretty successful business owners or professionals. There was no parity in the membership. So if there's a defense attorney, there can't be another defense attorney.
Oh, okay.
If there's you know what I mean? It's
there's no conflicts between them.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And so because they wanted that, disparity, they wanted that differences in opinions and all and professional experiences. And so she was like, they wanted me to join the group. I told them, I'm in 6. She goes, you join the group. Yep. She goes, just go, for God's sakes. And they would, and we would meet for lunch for an hour and a half in the middle of the week, and we took that book, The 7 Habits. We took that Canfield, right?
No, that's a Covey.
That's right. Yeah,
Canfield is in the the whole law of attraction kind of stuff.
Right. So we would take a book like that, and then we would just kind of go through it as just fodder for what to talk about. But what it was I told him, I go, all this group was just to challenge each other to be better, to be better. And so we push each other. And we would, once we really got to know each other, it's almost like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, because these some bitches know me like the back of, and they can really get into my shit.
Yes,
you know,
because they'll know. We all have our own BS. But they know, and they can call you on it, and you think, oh, yeah, you kind of got me on that.
Yeah, they can call you, and that's what this was. Yeah. I mean, but it was, I did it, actually, the only reason it disbanded, there were kind of 2 reasons. I did it for about 15 years. COVID. Yeah. But we all got to the point where we were getting close to retirement, or we were all really successful at what we had done. It was like we could write those books and give those speeches, but but I just, I like you say, having that board of directors, having a group of people that, as you say, that you meet with, that challenge each other, is, I think that's invaluable, because I think there's that point now hitting 70.
Yeah.
And maybe you're just starting at 55 to where you go, you naturally start to wind down. You go, well, I've accomplished my goals. And everybody's telling me this is your last quarter of your life. Mm-hmm. You travel, you do, and you start not making goals anymore, and not pushing yourself, and I go, I don't want to fall into that.
That sounds like you used to hear about it in previous generations of the guy who worked for the company for 40 years. He retired and then he died a year later because he had nothing moving him forward.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my friends who's actually going to be on this board of directors, and we noticed that we were talking about people we went to school with and how it's a transitional thing that we talk about our careers as, what is it you do? But now we're starting to talk about it as, what is it you have done? You've crossed over where you look back and say, well, this is what I spent my time doing.
Right.
How did it turn out?
Mm-hmm.
And it's different for me because being in this business, I can always move ahead in some way.
Right.
If I want to, or I can get real comfortable and stop caring. And
sure.
Because you've been in this particular business a long time, you see those guys who go on stage and they are dead behind the eyes. They've got nothing new to say. They're disconnected from themselves. They're up there. You hear them and they're doing jokes about. You think that commercial, that product's been gone for 20 years.
I know.
But, that's my worst fear is that I will be the guy on stage talking about the thing that isn't a thing anymore just because they've become detached.
Right. And it still works. It still gets a laugh.
It'll get a laugh.
Still gets a laugh, still works. And once again, I think it's that thing of you're just going through the motions because it's safe, and like you say, you don't have goals. It's like, well, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Now I'm just kind of resting on my laurels and grooving along and making a little extra money. But I've said this many times, but I had the head of the theater department at University of Memphis, Keith Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy walked into our, I love his story, I've told him a million times, walked into our directing class one day, and he's smoking, back when you smoked, everybody smoked while smoking a cigarette. And he goes, gravity is killing you every day. He goes, it's not the cancer. It's not, that's all just a byproduct. It's gravity. It's just jerking on you and killing you. So you got to dance on gravity every day. You got to get up and you got to dance on gravity. We're like, okay, cool. And he goes, and the day that you decide this is it, I've done it. I've done it. I've done it. I've done everything I want to do, and I've accomplished it, and now I'm just gonna groove out. I'm just gonna enjoy myself and whatever. He goes, you've laid down in your coffin and you hadn't pulled the door shut yet, because if you're not a little scared, you're not living anymore. If you're not putting yourself in those situations, which the funny part of that is, years later I saw him 30 years later, had lunch, and got to share that story with him and tell him how much it meant to me. And I finished the story, and he goes, I said that. And he was serious as shit. I said, yeah, you said it. I said it to a
profound
million people.
Moment.
He goes, I must have been stoned as fuck that day.
Yeah. Had a 3-martini lunch and dropping pearls.
But I as far as a little thing especially as I grow older, that dancing on gravity, getting up and not letting, because you can feel it more. You feel yourself being pulled in. But that thing of, what do I want to do beyond this? Something that I'm not great at. Which for me, I started writing a screenplay, a movie. Why? I don't know. For the fuck of it. And I started a book, and I remember about, and I got the books, the script's only about 40 pages in, but the book I've already written a couple hundred pages, but I remember when I first started that book, I got about, I don't know, 40, 50 pages in, if that. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck am I doing? I said, nobody's going to read this fucking book.
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna spend, you spend a year writing a book and then getting it together, and then by 2 years, 3 years, people take the published fucking book, and then nobody wants to fucking read this book. I put all this work into it. What the fuck? And my mind just started to go right there, you know. And what got me was I just had my grandson at the time, and I said, I'm writing it for my grandson.
Yes.
And that's the only person I'm writing it for. And that kind of went, okay, all right, at least I'm doing it for that. But just that stopping yourself, because you just...
Yeah, because, well, I think the Buddhists call that attachment to outcome, and you have to break the attachment to outcome, especially when it comes to writing. I started doing daily journaling about 7 years ago. Because I had like a midlife crisis, and I said, things were bothering me, and I said, let me try some of these other things. And I joke with my friends. I said, one of my friends, if I die, you are the one who gets to go through these, because I've talked a lot of shit about a lot of people on these books, so there's only one person who gets to do these.
Yeah.
But I really am like the Unabomber in that I have manifestos, like tubs filled with these journals. And someone said to me, well, what have you learned when you go back and read them? And I say, I've never read a single page of them. The purpose for me is not to read them. It's to do the writing. It's to keep sharpening that sword and to figure out, like, because there is something when they say put it in writing, and even for myself. And I noticed it the first 2 weeks I was doing it. I could tell, this is phony. I'm writing this almost performatively for somebody else. No one else is reading this. And I thought, whoa, this is a thing I need to learn about myself. Another thing I learned was I kept seeing the word but on. I would say this, but this. And I thought, wow, that's weird that I've said the word but 5 times on a page. And I realized, why am I arguing against myself? This is my journal. Like, why am I constantly saying, here's what I think, but I shouldn't think that? So what it did, and I learned, it made me commit to, if this is what I think, work it out. But there's plenty of people in the world who can't wait to tell me no. I don't need to be one of them.
Right.
So I put myself on, I call it my but budget.
I love it.
I'm allowed to say but once per page. I can say although, however, all these other things that force me to say this is what I think and here's how I'm going to complete that thought. Now, that's something I would never have learned if I didn't do this daily process of writing for an hour. And sometimes that's the highlight of my day, is when the hour goes by and I close that book and I say, if I don't do anything else today, I feel like I had a nice purpose.
Right. Awesome. That's awesome, and it keeps you going forward. That's just great. And you know, when you said that, I'm arguing with myself. When Pam and I first got married, there was a point where I came in off the road, and she has a master's degree in theater. She's a smart girl, and she started very quickly questioning me about what I was doing with my career. You know, kind of like, and I sat there for a minute and I went, hang on just a second.
You get your story straight?
I was like, no. And I told her what you just alluded to. I said, you know something? I've got the whole world out there to kick me in the teeth. I've got the whole world of people out there to tell me that I am not worth fuck, that I'm fucking up, that I'm not. I got that. I said, I don't need that here. Yeah. Even though you're probably right.
Sure.
I think that me and you are best served to be each other's cheerleaders.
Yeah, advocates.
We want to prop each other up. I remember there was a thing in golf on caddies, how caddies nowadays are so intricate to a professional, and now a guy hardly pulls a club on his own. The caddy knows everything and And they asked Jack Nicklaus about it, and Jack said, my caddy never chose my club. My caddy never told me how far it was up there. He goes, you know what I wanted my caddy to do? I wanted my caddy to carry my clubs, and then when I got ready to hit a shot, and I might look at him and go, what do you think? And I want him to go, I think if anybody can hit this shot as close to that pin in the whole world. It's you, Jack. You are the greatest golfer ever. And he goes, that's all I needed.
Yeah, just very important
that
role.
Yeah, you're awesome.
And some other good advice I got was when I first started to, do this for a career. I was on the phone with my mother, just sort of complaining about the frustrations and this and that. And she said, no one makes you do this. I was like, you could stop. I could stop at any time, theoretically.
That's right.
So, and I think of that sometimes. I think of it when things aren't going well, and I think of it also when things are going well, and maybe I'm looking for something to get frustrated about.
Yes.
Because you know what comics can be like. I think there's two different kinds of comics. There's the ones, they can go up and eat shit, and they come off stage and like, that's how it's done, people. And they're like, what show did you just watch? And then there's people where I'm in the latter camp where you can have a great set, but that one joke that didn't hit, and you come off backstage, and no one can talk to you for a while.
Exactly.
You're grouchy. So
fuck. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And that was something my acting teacher said. She goes, nobody does anything to you. It's your choice.
Without your permission,
and
right?
somebody go, well, what if they have a gun to your head? She goes, your choice.
Yeah, I love when they come up with those scenarios.
Your choice.
You say, you have a lot of choices. Like, what if you're in an iron lung? Oh, okay. You win the argument. But then you talk to people who are like, they're paraplegics and they're doing painting and all this stuff and, not well. But let's be honest. They're
comic Brett Leak.
Oh, yeah?
Muscular dystrophy. Out there forever. And was the first comic on the Tonight Show with a disability because Jay was just starting to host for Johnny, and Johnny let Jay bring him on. Johnny was uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Look, I say Johnny like I fucking knew the guy. And but Jay had him on. And here was a guy that accomplished just about everything you could imagine with one of the worst diseases you could possibly have. Brilliant. So, a lot of us that knew Brett Leak, whenever anybody complains about anything, I go, you ain't got shit to complain about, bro. That guy takes 2 hours to get dressed in the fucking morning.
Right?
Yeah.
He's getting his shit done.
Yeah, and then he writes a new bit.
Yeah.
You ain't written one in fucking 6 months.
I know, exactly. You're up there, you're doing jokes about Wow potato chips, and it's like, what was that, 1998? What are you talking about?
Exactly. All right, man, let's go do it.
Yeah, let's go do another show.